We walk around with our heads in the clouds most of the time. This means we are ignorant to the world around us. Many values can be seen in many different ways, and we are not observing these values. Modesty is a value that can be in everyone, but they can be appearing in different ways. Let's take a look at the different ways modesty can appear. Today I want to discuss modesty as an example of this value. We should all understand modesty as a common value when we see it around us. I have research sources used and have determined them to be credible. I will discuss the value of modesty, and then I will discuss Abraham Lincoln as a representative of modesty. And then finally, I will use anecdotes to imagine modesty. What is modesty? There are three major cognitive accounts of modesty, according to author Aaron Ben-Zeev in his article, The Virtue of Modesty. The first cognitive account of modesty is the agent knows his or her superior worth, but does not reveal it in speech or behavior. In this sense, the agent is insincere. This tells us that a modest person does not flaunt the fact that he or she is above other people. The second cognitive account of modesty is the agent underestimates his or her worth. In this sense, the agent is ignorant. This tells us that he or she does not know how important or superior they are. The third cognitive account of modesty is the agent does not overestimate his or her worth. In this sense, the agent is realistic. This tells us that he or she understands who they are and what they stand for, no more or no less. One outstanding example of modesty in everyday life is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was known for many things, and modesty was high on the list. Abraham Lincoln is an example of being the type of modest that he had a high level of superiority, but he didn't flaunt it, and he did not assume he was better than any other man. According to Michael Burlingame, author of Abraham Lincoln, A Life, quotes Lincoln as saying, "I have made a great many poor speeches and now feel relieved that my dignity does not permit me to be a public speaker." Lincoln describes himself as an ordinary man and does not see himself as what he really is, a model for Americans. In Lincoln's speech, he acts like he is a normal, hardworking citizen like everyone else instead of the President of the United States of America. Abraham Lincoln was elected to be our 16th President of the United States. Lincoln was a war hero and a public role model for the North to look up to. He gave public speeches as if he were an ordinary man. He spoke to his citizens as if he was speaking to peers in everyday life. This is how Lincoln ran his presidency, and this is why he is known as a modest man. Modesty defines us based on who we are. Abraham Lincoln was top model for this value. Another example of modesty is Abraham Lincoln giving a speech to the citizens of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, according to author Michael Burlingame, November 6, 2012. Lincoln was quoted as saying, "I have been selected to fill an important office for a brief period, and am now, in your eyes, invested with an influence which will soon pass away. But should my administration prove to be a wicked one, or what is more probable, a very foolish one, if you, the people, are but true to yourself and to the Constitution, there is but little harm I can do, thank God." Lincoln was speaking to these citizens as if they were fellow peers and not the people he was elected to guide to a better tomorrow. Lincoln shows his modesty by demonstrating a quick speech to inform those citizens that, with their help, he can do no wrong. Lincoln and his wife set out on a night on the town in April of 1865. They went to the Ford Theater to watch the evening show with two friends. That night was going to be a night that will be remembered for centuries. Lincoln was a modest man and did not want to be escorted to the theater by guards. He saw himself as a normal human being, just like everyone else. That night at the Ford Theater, Lincoln was assassinating during the show. There was no one there to protect him because of his modesty. Now that we have discussed modesty and the example of Abraham Lincoln, we can now come to a conclusion. The discussion of modesty as a value and the cognitive accounts of modesty has left us with an understanding of what modesty truly is. Using Abraham Lincoln as an example of modesty also helps us to identify what it means to be modest. The use of anecdotes throughout the speech allowed us to have an imagery of modesty and its everyday use. Maybe this will teach you to try to be more modest in everyday living. It also may have helped you to observe the modesty all around you that you would not have connected before. Modesty can be in many forms, and now we can pinpoint it in others.